Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Luby's Lessons. I'm Luby. Last time I talked about watching fencing videos. Today I want to talk about channeling your best fencing. So what I left out last week, I left out a couple things, but what I didn't mention was the idea of watching your own fencing. And this is an idea that's still kind of unpleasant and scary for me. Just watching myself in a video or hearing myself do anything is weird. And it's kind of disturbing sometimes to see yourself when you think something went one way and then you watch it from a different perspective and you have to ask, is that what that really looked like? I thought it was completely different. But unfortunately, with fencing, it is very useful to have that other perspective to see obvious distance mistakes that maybe you missed otherwise, and to look at just technique and tactics in general. It becomes much more obvious when you look at yourself. So unfortunately, that's another good thing to do. But a thing I noticed when I do watch myself fence, which is very interesting, is that as soon as I start watching myself fence, I get this feeling in my gut immediately that's related to that bout. It's like the same exact feelings I had when I was fencing that person on that day. I feel it in the moment, sympathetic nervous system activated. And it's really weird, whatever this feeling is, because it's some sort of recipe. And it's a recipe, I think, of fear and desire. And this is a question I ask myself all the time. What is a more powerful motivator, fear or desire? And it seems like the answer is obvious. Of course, the more positive desire, the will to win, can be more powerful than the fear of losing. But I think it's more complicated than that, because sometimes it's not the desire to win, it's the desire to not let your opponent win. And then it becomes more of a fine line between the desire of not letting your opponent beat you and the fear of losing. So it's especially hard to figure that out, and I think the balance of those emotions are different with every bout, with every person, with each day. And there's also something I'm going to admit, which maybe others have this idea, but I know sometimes in this mix of feelings in my gut, sometimes I have a fear of winning, which is sounds totally weird and illogical. Of course, you want to win all the time, right? But I think especially if the idea of winning is unknown for whatever reason, then you kind of want to stick to the comfort of losing. I think whether if you're just a beginning fencer and you've never won anything, it can be really scary. Or if you're on a losing streak and there's almost this sick comfort in that, because it's not pleasant to lose, obviously, but sometimes it's more unpleasant to think about what winning would be like. But anyways, I think this recipe of this fears and desires, the fact that you can just conjure it up just by watching yourself. I think you can also conjure it up just by thinking about certain fencing matches, which is the exercise I want to talk about. So um, again, watching fencing and thinking about this gut feeling is a great exercise in itself. But what if you looked at your fencing journal and you gave yourself a writing prompt in that if you can recreate that feeling in your gut for any specific bout, for any specific competition against any person, why not recreate it for your best day of fencing? So ask yourself, what was my best day of fencing so far in my life? Then imagine it, and then find that gut feeling. And as you experience those kind of uncomfortable emotions, write down everything you can remember about that day. So for me, I did this exercise, and the most recent competition I had that I did well in was winning the Bucks National Championships here in England for women's foil. And it was a very interesting experience to write it down, because it definitely was not a perfect day. There were a lot of things going wrong in the environment and for myself too, but I could figure out the pattern of how the balance in my gut helped me that day. And the main problem I was dealing with that day was fatigue. I was so tired, especially during the DE bouts, and there were 5 DE bouts that day. And after every one, especially after the second one, I was wondering how the heck am I going to fence another bout? And I remember previously, this was a fear I had in after winning a bout and feeling totally exhausted in previous competitions. I would have this fear of, oh my goodness, I'm going to humiliate myself with terrible fencing in front of all these people. Ugh, this is terrible. And I didn't have that day. My gut balance of fear and desire, it was almost this calm that that really helped me not get in the way of myself, I think is what it was. And that I had a calm that that didn't I didn't believe the fears that I had of humiliating myself. Like I had the thought, but I'm like, who cares? I don't care. And then the desire, I didn't let my desire like make me rush and do stupid things. I kind of just got out of the way of myself and let my body fence. It was so cool. It was just like all the practice I've had beforehand. It showed, and it's really funny because my dad live streamed this competition, which is another way of watching fencing. Live stream is great. And I remember I called him after, and I'm like, "So what'd you think?" And then he said, "Yeah, you look tired, but you're definitely fighting." And it sums up that day very nicely because maybe it wasn't my best fencing, but the spirit I had in that. I really think it's all in the gut sometimes. Like, I had such a belief in myself despite the fatigue, despite physical exhaustion. I didn't care. I was going to fight for myself. And that's why I think this exercise is important, because you can get a takeaway from what your best fencing is that you might have not even known. And I think that our emotional gut memory is an awesome tool for this. And it is an awesome tool when combined with our mental and visual imagery. Um, and I think using this, um, being able to re experience the moment almost as if you were there, and almost being able to play with ideas of, oh, yes, this was a chaotic moment, but this is how I reacted to it. This is a great way to develop the mental and emotional strength of a champion. So I hope you enjoyed that idea. Please give it a try. Write about your best fencing ever. And I will see you next time on Luby's Lessons. Ciao, ciao.